There was not a single soul in the surrounding tens of thousands of miles. It was very quiet. Patriarch Golden Rock was not in a hurry to leave. He turned his head to look at Peng Fei beside him with a hint of curiosity in his eyes. Peng Fei, how did you get to know Long Tian? Patriarch Golden Rock had always felt that this matter was very strange. Could this be the will of the heavens? Or perhaps, Long Tian's scheming mind was deep, and he had long predicted today's situation, so he tried his best to get close to Peng Fei. Peng Fei was very smart. Looking at the ancestor's reaction, he guessed that the ancestor had some suspicions. Thus, he hurriedly recounted the process of him and Long Tian getting to know each other in detail. After hearing this, Patriarch Golden Rock was relieved and said with some emotion, "It seems that this is really the will of the heavens." Peng Fei also nodded in agreement and said with a smile, "What the ancestor did today is also in accordance with the will of the heavens. Our clan will definitely be blessed in the future." Patriarch Golden Rock raised his eyebrows and said with interest, "Oh? What do you mean?" Peng Fei did not hide and said with a smile, "Ancestor, Long Tian once told me that he promised in the name of the Heavenly Dragon Emperor that if the Myriad Demon Alliance controls the Star Source continent, as long as the 9 Mystical Grotto does not rebel in the future, he will protect the 9 Mystical Grotto forever." Patriarch Golden Rock was stunned for a moment, and a trace of gentleness flashed in his eyes. On account of the Heavenly Dragon Emperor's kindness, he let the Myriad Demon Alliance off today. And Long Tian was grateful for this favor, and also made a promise to the 9 Mystical Grotto. This was what it meant to return the favor. Compared to the arrogant War Dragon King, who knew how much better he was. Then, Patriarch Golden Rock smiled and said earnestly to Peng Fei, "You have to remember that it is important to be kind to others and form good karma. But if you want to be worry-free, you have to rely on yourself." Peng Fei hurriedly nodded and said with a smile, "I will remember the ancestors' teachings." Patriarch Golden Rock thought for a moment and said with a playful tone, "I am going to return to the 9 Mystical Grotto now. Do you want to go back with me or stay here and wait for Long Tian?" "Ah!" Peng Fei's eyes widened in surprise and disbelief. Originally, he had planned to follow the ancestor back to the 9 Mystical Grotto today. Although he would lose his freedom and become a bird in a cage again, he was satisfied to be able to help Long Tian so much. But now, the ancestor had guessed his thoughts and allowed him to not return to the 9 Mystical Grotto. This simply made him overjoyed and excited. "Ancestor, can I really not go back?" Peng Fei asked with a heart full of surprise. Angry roars, hysterical shouts, and shrill screams could be heard all over the place. This battlefield had already transformed into the most ferocious and bloody battlefield. But what was most terrifying was not the battlefield of the Divine Lord experts, but the battlefield of the top experts. High up in the sky, Battle Dragon King and Shueshang had joined forces to fight Hu Xinyue, Ao Jining Baifeng, and the others. The shockwaves from the battle tore the sky apart, revealing cracks in the void. The War Dragon King was heavily injured and weak. He was only in charge of assisting and protecting himself. The main attacker was naturally Blood Death. With the protection of the indestructible golden body, he attacked Hu Xinyue, Ao Jining Baifeng, and the others aggressively and had the absolute advantage. Before Ancestral Patriarch Golden Rock and Supreme Being Battle Whale appeared, he was still a little hesitant and wavering. But after the 2 top Divine Kings appeared, he made up his mind and stood firm. So, at this moment he was extremely brave and domineering, beating Hu Xinyue Baifeng and the others badly. On the other side, 80,000 miles away from the battlefield, Ji Tianqing and Supreme Being Battle Whale were fighting fiercely high up in the sky. As the most powerful cultivators of both forces, they were of course the key to the outcome of this battle. Both of them did not hold back and used their full strength, using all kinds of trump cards and ultimate skills. The War Whale Deity King revealed his true form, which was 100 miles long black war whale. His entire body was shrouded in icy blue light. It opened its mouth wide and spat out waves of divine light. The divine light transformed into thousands of divine light shadows and blasted towards Ji Tianqing. He also released invisible law divine runes and a weak Taoist rhyme to seal off a radius of 50,000 miles, suppressing Ji Tianqing. The so-called Taoist rhyme was the power of the heavenly way that a peak divine king could comprehend the heavenly way. The end of the cultivation of the divine way was to merge with the heavenly way, comprehend and control the power of the heavenly way. If a peak divine king could completely control the complete heavenly way law and the power of the heavenly way, he would surpass the divine king realm and take the final step to enter the God Emperor realm. A peak divine king who had mastered the Taoist rhyme had a natural advantage over a divine king like Ji Tianxing, who had not mastered the Taoist rhyme. Fortunately, Supreme Being Battle Whale had only cultivated for a short time, and had only been a peak divine king for a few hundred years. Compared to an old monster like ancestral patriarch Golden Rock, his Taoist rhyme was obviously much weaker. Even if his Taoist rhyme could suppress Ji Tianxing, it was not fatal and could not achieve the effect of crushing. In just an instant, the distance between the two people closed from 100,000 miles to 50,000 miles. In another 10 breaths of time, he would be caught by Long Tian. God King War Whale was shocked and enraged. He could not resist cursing in his heart, despicable bastard, actually unwilling to give up, swearing to have a showdown with this king? This king is not someone from the Xuanji Grotto. I just came to help out on account of our relationship. Now that things have come to this king already took the initiative to retreat. How can he be so insensible? If he really forced this king into a corner and fought it out with him until both sides suffered heavy losses, is this the result that he wants to see? The way God King War Whale saw it, top powerhouses were not just powerful, they also had to be shrewd enough, adept at weighing the pros and cons, proficient in scheming and scheming. If he were Long Tian, he definitely would not pursue under this sort of circumstances. As the saying went, leave a way out for a demon so that we can meet again in the future. Giving each other a way out today, they could still turn enemies into friends in the future. Wasn't this a skill that every big shot should master? Yet, encountering Long Tian this stubborn, it was also unlucky enough. While feeling gloomy and his heart was gloomy, God King War Whale still did not dare to lower his guard, flying with all his might. However, after the two people chased for several 100,000 miles, Ji Tianxing still caught up to him. Swoosh! Wielding the sword of burial of heaven, Ji Tianxing used some kind of divine ability, and actually teleported 1,000 miles in the void, blocking in front of God King War Whale. God King War Whale was immediately filled with shock, staring at Ji Tianxing with dumbfounded eyes and slack jaws. Ew! What kind of divine ability is this, to actually be able to teleport in the void? If not for the fact that he had some respect for the heavenly Tao in his heart, God King War Whale really wanted to curse out loud. Damned heavens, you cheated for this guy, right? There's no justice in this world. Ji Tianxing raised his brows, looked at God King War Whale, and said in a playful tone, very curious? Do you want to learn? God King War Whale withdrew his war whale body, transforming into a 30-foot-tall human form, frowning and looking at him silently. He had a hunch that this was absolutely not something good. Indeed, Ji Tianxing said with a smile, a long time ago I had a companion, a blue kuan. I originally planned to raise it and make it my mount, but unfortunately it died in a great battle. And now I want to fulfill that dream. Although you're not a kuan, just a war whale, I can reluctantly accept it. Then this king would like to see what other tricks and trump cards you have that you dare to boast so shamelessly. With that, God King War Whale took out a dark golden halberd that was 6 meters long. The long handle of the halberd was as thick as an arm. Its design was exquisite, simple and majestic. The halberd at the top was split into 3 halberds, each with a 2-edged blade that flickered with a faint blue divine light. This was God King War Whale's natal divine artifact, the sea-splitting halberd. Of course, this was only a high-grade king-grade divine artifact. God King War Whale's greatest regret was that he didn't have a single supreme-grade king-grade divine artifact. If not, he wouldn't be ranked last among the 4 peak god kings of the Star Source continent. Dai Longtian. God King War Whale roared with a murderous aura. He held the sea-splitting halberd with both hands and charged at Ji Tianxing domineeringly. His entire body emitted a faint blue divine light that condensed into a pair of huge wings. They could help him maneuver in the void and protect him at critical moments. With a wave of the sea-splitting halberd, blue light that covered the sky and shone with more than 200 types of laws and divine runes charged at Ji Tianxing. It was fortunate that they were fighting in the void. If they were fighting in the dragon realm, the sky would have been torn apart by the sharp blue blades. The spatial barrier of the dragon realm would not be able to withstand such powerful divine power. Ji Tianqing was enveloped by the blue light and suppressed by more than 200 types of laws and divine power. He felt his divine body stiffen, his divine power blocked, and his battle prowess was greatly reduced. Fortunately, his movements in the void were not restricted, and he had a natural advantage. Seeing the blue blades coming at him, he instantly retreated 100 miles to avoid the sharp blades. He held the sword of burial of heaven with both hands and slashed with all his might. Like a golden divine dragon, it charged at God King War Whale. Heavenly Dragon Slash. The holy golden dragon that was tens of thousands of feet long bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it viciously tore apart the blue blades of light that filled the sky. Unfortunately, when the holy golden dragon shattered the sharp blades that filled the sky, its power was also exhausted. God King War Whale only swung his halberd and shattered the golden dragon. The two of them were evenly matched, and neither of them had the upper hand. God King War Whale swung his halberd again and instantly shot out 96 icy blue light pillars that formed a formation and blasted at Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing countered in an orderly manner, slashing out more than 200 sword lights, clashing with War Whale Deity King. The divine powers that the two of them used collapsed again. Neither of them was injured. Ji Tianqing immediately used the 10 directional vanishing shadows, and his body split into 8, creating 7 clones. He and the 7 clones worked together to form the 8 extreme battle formation and surrounded God King War Whale, attacking fiercely. God King War Whale had seen the power of this divine power when they were fighting in the Xuanji Grotto Heaven, so he naturally did not dare to underestimate it. However, he did not panic and quickly took out 9 calming divine pearls, which circled around him. Each of the 9 calming divine pearls was a superior grade king-level divine artifact. They could form an array to form a shield and release the power of a divine array to kill enemies. Under the protection of the 9 divine pearls, God King War Whale was like a tiger that had grown wings. He could deal with Ji Tianqing and the 7 clones more easily. Both sides engaged in a fierce battle in the sky, exchanging blows back and forth. Every single move was extremely exquisite and possessed extraordinary might. The aftermath of the two of them fighting was like ripples that spread in all directions, creating layers of ripples in the vast void. Unfortunately, there was no audience for this marvelous battle. If there were other God King experts present here, they would surely be dazzled and fascinated by this scene, and they would be filled with admiration. After all, this was a battle between the top experts of the Star Source continent, and even the entire Dragon Realm. Many divine lords and divine kings might not be able to see it with their own eyes in their entire lives. Not to mention the dazzling light of the divine arts when the two of them were fighting, it was very enjoyable to watch. Just their understanding of divine powers, laws and techniques were enough for many divine kings to learn and comprehend. 2 hours, 4 hours, 6 hours. Soon 10 hours had passed. Ji Tianqing and God King War Whale exchanged 100,000 moves and both of them had used up almost half of their divine power, but they were still evenly matched. Both of them were slightly injured, but neither of them had the upper hand. God King War Whale gradually lost his patience and wanted to mock Ji Tianqing before thinking of a way to retreat. However, he did not expect the primordial chaos bell to fly over from afar and join the battle. Wonderful Book House. Chapter 3792. Ji Tianqing's strength was not enough to make God King War Whale wary. What he was truly wary of was the primordial chaos bell. When he was escaping from Abstruse Grotto Heaven, God King War Whale used his consciousness to detect that Ji Tianqing had left the divine bell in Abstruse Grotto Heaven to block the spatial rifts and void storms. Therefore, even if Ji Tianqing caught up to him and swore to defeat him, he was not worried. But it was different now. Under the suppression of the primordial chaos bell, the spatial rifts and void storms in Abstruse Grotto Heaven rapidly weakened. Under the restoration of the heavenly Tao laws, the spatial rifts quickly closed. Abstruse Grotto Heaven's spatial barrier had been restored, and the primordial chaos bell's mission was completed. It actually returned to Ji Tianqing's hands. He was like a tiger that had grown wings, and his combat strength increased greatly. God King War Whale's expression changed immediately. and he made up his mind to escape. Without the divine bell's help, Ji Tianqing could fight him to a draw. Now that Ji Tianqing had the divine bell, he was definitely no match for him. Swoosh! God King Warwhale exchanged a blow with Ji Tianqing and used the powerful impact to escape into the depths of the void. His speed was raised to the limit, and he turned into a faint blue light, traveling thousands of miles in an instant. But Ji Tianqing was already prepared. The moment he turned to escape, he cast a spell to activate the primordial chaos bell, and it expanded to a radius of tens of thousands of miles. The massive primordial chaos bell was as black as ink, and it seemed to have become one with the void. In just an instant, it covered a radius of 50,000 miles, sealing off the area. God King Warwhale had just flown 40,000 miles when he was about to crash into the primordial chaos bell's wall. He reacted instantly and he was shocked and angry. He could not help but curse, "Damn beast! Is he really going to kill me? What is he relying on? Isn't he afraid of forcing me into a corner?" As he cursed, he hurriedly stopped running, and he turned to look at Ji Tianqing with the sea-splitting halberd in his hand. He saw that in the void tens of thousands of miles behind him, Ji Tianqing was flying over unhurriedly. He was certain that Divine King Warwhale would not be able to escape and would definitely be suppressed within the primordial chaos bell. There was a confident smile on his face. Deity King Warwhale was also very calm. He released his divine senses and used his divine arts to observe the primordial chaos bell. He already knew how powerful the primordial chaos bell was, but this was the first time he was trapped inside it. Even though he knew that there wasn't much hope, he still wanted to give it a try. He wanted to see if he could break through the suppression of the divine clock and escape. He could clearly sense that not only was the divine bell incomparably sturdy and difficult to break, but it was also imbued with powerful laws and array Tao divine power. If they wanted to escape from the divine clock seal, it would definitely not be a simple matter. They would need to think about it at length. However, before he could further investigate the mystery of the God clock, Ji Tianqing flew over. Seeing that Ji Tianqing had no intention of communicating and was about to attack, God King Warwhale frowned and said in a low voice, "Long Tian, what are you trying to do? Your aggressiveness will do no good to the 10,000 Demon Alliance. I believe that you are not such a reckless person either. If you have any conditions or requests, we can still talk about it." Ji Tianqing's unreasonableness gave God King Warwhale a headache. He felt that Ji Tianqing's actions were unreasonable. Even though Ji Tianqing had explained the reason was not sufficient. It was too far-fetched. God King Warwhale felt that Ji Tianqing must have some other scheme. It was just that he was unwilling to say it out loud. Hearing God King Warwhale's words, Ji Tianqing, who was about to attack, was stunned. He raised his eyebrows and said in a playful tone, "I have said many times that I only want to injure you and ask you to obediently go into seclusion for a few decades. Why don't you believe me? Why do you feel that I have other motives? Is that not the case? How can there be such a ridiculous reason?" God King Warwhale frowned and asked. Ji Tianqing thought for a moment and said with a serious expression, "Since you don't want to fight and want to use other methods to solve this matter, I will give you a chance. As long as you agree to my 2 conditions, today's matter will be over. How about it?" God King Warwhale was silent. He thought to himself, "This despicable little bastard. He really has other motives." Although he was secretly relieved and felt that there was still room for negotiation, he was still wary. However, he was also full of vigilance. He was worried that Ji Tianqing would make an excessive request. After a moment of consideration, he nodded and said, "What are the conditions?" Ji Tianqing said expressionlessly, "First, you have to answer one of my questions truthfully. There must not be any deception." God King Warwhale frowned and seemed to want to bargain. Ji Tianqing added, "Don't worry, this question will not make you reveal any secrets, nor will it harm the interests of you and the Warwhale clan." God King Warwhale's brows relaxed when he heard that. He nodded and said, "I can agree to this. What's the second condition?" Ji Tianqing said with a playful smile, "You also know that the reason I pursued you so relentlessly is because I want you to rest for a few decades. Let's not beat around the bush. The Xuanji Grotto heaven has been conquered, and the Star Source continent is ours. Chapter 3794. Although God King Warwhale understood the truth, he was even more depressed and aggrieved than before, especially when he saw the heavenly Tao oath that had been prepared in the jade slip. His heart collapsed and he was speechless. The heavenly Tao oath that Ji Tianqing had provided was actually long and detailed, with a total of over 1,000 words. The contents of the oath not only described in detail the promise that God King Warwhale had to fulfill, it also took into account all kinds of normal and abnormal accidents, and also limited and explained them. All in all, this was an oath to the Heaven Tao that was extremely perfect and detailed to the point of being horrifying. It was utterly impossible to pick out the slightest mistake from it, and it was impossible to take advantage of it. Your heavenly Tao oath is really strict enough. God King Warwhale held the jade slip and looked at Ji Tianqing with a complicated expression, gritting his teeth as he spoke. Ji Tianqing ignored his anger and said indifferently, "It's good to be strict, this way you and I can both be at ease, and the heavenly Tao will also feel that we are sincere." God King Warwhale frowned and lowered his voice, saying in a contemptuous tone, "Long Tian, you are also a peak God King, don't be so mysterious. Do you think that a mere heavenly Tao oath can restrain people's hearts? You should know very well that other than those ignorant weaklings, the stronger one is, the less respect they have for the heavenly Tao." Ji Tianqing could not help but reveal a cold smile. "Since you do not respect the heavenly Tao and feel that a heavenly Tao oath cannot restrain you, why don't you hurry up and swear a heavenly Tao oath and end this matter?" God King Warwhale was speechless and his face flushed red. Indeed, he was like many God King experts, feeling that the concepts of heavenly Tao oath and heavenly Tao will were too illusory. After all, from ancient times until now, no one could say for sure what the heavenly Tao was. But the power of the heavenly Tao was real. No one could go against their conscience and say that the heavenly Tao did not exist. Therefore, everyone's mentality was very complicated, and they were skeptical of heavenly Tao oaths and rules. For example, Xueshang was in such a situation and mentality during this period of time. He was very confused and very aggrieved. Many times he wanted to ignore the heavenly Tao oath and fight to the death with Ji Tianqing. But when this thought appeared in his mind, his hands and feet would be tied, and he could not help but shrink back. God King Warwhale was silent for a moment before he suppressed his sullen and depressed emotions. This point he could not resist. He only wanted to end this as soon as possible, and then return to the South Sea to cultivate in seclusion. He did not want to see Ji Tianqing again. This person was too hateful. Through Xueshang and God King Warwhale's experiences, he roughly figured out the way and also had a clear judgment on whether the heavenly Tao oath was effective or not. He felt that this matter could be studied more thoroughly. If he could grasp the correct way to open the heavenly Tao oath, it would definitely be much more convenient for him to do things in the future. Just as he was thinking, God King Warwhale had already come to his senses and looked at him expressionlessly. He said, "Long Tian, I have already fulfilled my promise. Shouldn't you also?" God King Warwhale did not say anything, only looking up at the huge primordial chaos bell. Ji Tianqing immediately collected his thoughts and did not say anything more. He raised his hand and put away the primordial chaos bell. Swoosh! The huge primordial chaos bell instantly shrunk to the size of a foot and floated beside Ji Tianqing. As he put away the divine bell, God King Warwhale only felt the pressure on him suddenly decrease, and his entire body relaxed. He tidied his clothes, used his divine power to wipe away the cold sweat on his forehead, and turned to leave. He did not want to stay a moment longer, nor did he want to look at Ji Tianqing. He did not even want to say goodbye. However, Ji Tianqing put away the primordial chaos bell and reminded him, "God King Warwhale, remember your promise today. For the next 100 years, stay in the South Sea obediently and do not interfere with the continent's affairs." Of course God King Warwhale remembered. Why did he need Ji Tianqing to remind him? He was unhappy and replied with some anger, Of course I will fulfill my promise." Probably because he was angry, he could not help but ask Long Tian, "Although I will not interfere in this matter, don't forget that the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor is still safe and sound. When the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor returns, he will definitely take revenge on the 10,000 Demon Alliance. At that time, if the 10,000 Demon Alliance cannot resist, they will spit out what they have eaten. If you die in the hands of the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor, I will still be very happy. There were still some cracks left on the spatial barrier, and they were slowly being repaired by the power of the heavenly law. Ji Tianqing found a spatial crack and forcefully tore it open. Then, he passed through the spatial crack and returned to the Xuanji Grotto. It had been a few hours since the battle had begun. Aside from the violent divine power lingering in the air, Xuanji Grotto had returned to normal. Ji Tianqing flew across the sky and saw that the Golden Dragon mountain range had already disappeared, turning into yellow sand and ravines. On a relatively flat piece of land, he saw the soldiers of the Myriad Demon Alliance, as well as over 1,000 Sir Gods and a dozen godly kings from the Xuanji Grotto. All of them wore ragged clothes and were covered in bloodstains. They seemed to be in a miserable state, and they were extremely exhausted and haggard. However, the soldiers of the Xuanji Grotto looked numb and gloomy. Their eyes were filled with confusion and fear. Obviously, they were temporarily captives and did not know what their fate would be. On the other hand, the 3,000 soldiers of the Myriad Demon Alliance were in a better state of mind and they were in high spirits. Everyone had a victorious smile on their faces. At that moment, 2,000 of the 3,000 soldiers were meditating on the ground, concentrating on healing their wounds. The other 1,000 soldiers were Kenshin soldiers with swords, guarding over the 1,000 captives. Ji Tianqing scanned the crowd with his divine consciousness and saw the left and right protectors and Hu Xinyue, who were severely injured. They were healing their wounds and waiting silently. However, Fu Ergu, the Minister of Internal Affairs, and Wanli Divine King were nowhere to be seen. Swoosh! Ji Tianqing flew across the sky and came to the crowd, landing next to the left and right protectors. The two of them and Hu Xinyue quickly came forward and bowed to Ji Tianqing. "Young master, you're back? Young master, are you hurt? Where's Divine King War Whale? Has he been killed by the young master?" The three of them looked at Ji Tianqing with concern. However, Ji Tianqing did not know whether to laugh or cry at Hu Xinyue's question. He could not help but ask, "Divine King War Whale is a peak divine king. Why is the great elder so confident in me? How can a dignified peak divine king be killed at will?" Hu Xinyue was stunned for a moment. Only then did she realize that her confidence in the young master was too strong and unreasonable. However, she quickly smiled and explained, "Divine King War Whale is a peak divine king, but so is the young master. Moreover, I believe that with the young master's strength and means, killing Divine King War Whale will not be a problem." The left and right protectors also nodded in agreement. The three of them looked at Ji Tianqing with burning eyes. Their faces were full of anticipation, waiting for him to reveal the outcome of Divine King War Whale. Ji Tianqing did not explain the details. He just said, "Divine King War Whale is not dead, but he returned to the South Sea. For the next 100 years, he will not be our enemy." Hearing this, the three of them's eyes lit up. They all showed excited expressions. As I expected, Divine King War Whale is really not the young master's match. Ha ha ha, the peak Divine King War Whale was also seriously injured by the young master. He could only escape to the South Sea in a sorry state and go into seclusion to heal his injuries for 100 years. The young master is mighty. Clearly, the left and right protectors and Hu Xinyue had misunderstood. Ji Tianqing only said that Divine King War Whale had returned to the South Sea and would not attack again for 100 years. However, the three of them were confident in their imagination and thought that Divine King War Whale was seriously injured and needed to heal for 100 years to recover. However, Ji Tianqing did not intend to explain this misunderstanding. "Where's Fu Ergu? Where did he go?" The left and right protectors hurriedly explained, replying the young master, "During the battle previously, Lord Steward dealt with Divine King War Dragon and Xueshang. He killed Divine King War Dragon in the battle. Unfortunately, Xueshang had a supreme-grade divine artifact in hand. Lord Steward could not do anything to him. In the end, Xueshang charged out and killed more than 200 of our experts before escaping from Xuanji Grotto Heaven." Hearing up to here, Ji Tianqing frowned and asked somewhat worriedly, "Could it be that Fu Ergu went to chase after Xueshang? Xueshang has old ancestor Chongqi's indestructible golden body. Even if Fu Ergu chases after him, it's useless." Xinhua hurriedly waved her hand and explained, "Don't worry, young master. Lord Steward also understands this, so he did not pursue. Lord Steward only brought a dozen divine king powerhouses to patrol Xuanji Grotto Heaven, searching for those who escaped from the battle previously." Only then did Ji Tianqing relax. He nodded and said, "Then I'm relieved. During the battle previously, there were indeed many divine kings who had their divine bodies destroyed by me, but their divine cores escaped. Fu Ergu personally led the team. Hopefully he can clean up those guys." The left and right protectors hurriedly nodded, indicating that Lord Steward would definitely complete the mission. Not long after, when the two of them forced the captive in front of them to recite the heavenly Tao oath according to the model, the two of them widened their eyes, and their expressions became rather strange. Only now did they understand the reason for Xinyua's strange expression. The model of the heavenly Tao oath given by young master is really detailed and rigorous enough. Listening to the captive's sorrowful expressions and solemn tones as they recited the 1,000-word oath, the left and right protectors inexplicably sympathized with them. Fortunately, the captives' hearts were like dead ashes, and they were full of despair. They thought that there was no way out for them. Now they were told that they only needed to recite the heavenly Tao oath, and they could leave alive without any punishment. To them this was simply a piece of heavenly good news. Therefore, even if they recited the heavenly Tao oath that was sufficiently rigorous, they did not feel ashamed at all. Instead they enjoyed it. Dealing with thousands of captives was a very troublesome and time-consuming thing. In particular, every captive had to be interrogated about their identity and background, and strive to be recruited into the 10,000 Demon Alliance. If they were unwilling to join the 10,000 Demon Alliance, they had to recite the heavenly Tao oath before they could leave. After such a torment, every captive would be delayed for half an hour. As a result, the left and right protectors Xinhua Aojining, and the three elders, a total of 7 people, still took more than half a day to carry out this mission. In this half a day, Ji Tianqing had been tidying up the spoils of war and patrolling the Xuanji Grotto. Needless to say, the spoils of war were of course priceless. Just the godhood fragments in his spatial ring alone numbered more than 120, and they were all godhood fragments of god kings. As for patrolling the Xuanji Grotto, the reason was that the Xuanji Grotto's territory was too vast, and it was Ji Tianqing's first time here. He had to carefully inspect the Xuanji Grotto once, to have a sufficient understanding of it, and to look for places that might be dangerous. For example, was there any place in the Xuanji Grotto where some god kings and Golden Dragon Guard commanders were hiding? Or was there a hidden teleportation formation that could lead to the Dragon Realm? Or was there a place where the spatial barrier was weaker that could be broken through from the void and infiltrated the Xuanji Grotto? Ji Tianqing had to be on guard against these questions. It was worth mentioning that Ji Tianqing spent a total of 3 days patrolling the entire Xuanji Grotto. In the process of patrolling, he met the Chief of Internal Affairs Fu Ergu, who was leading a dozen god kings to search for the defeated soldiers. Fu Ergu killed a dozen hidden godhoods and handed them to Ji Tianqing. In the process of patrolling, Ji Tianqing also found a few hidden godhoods and smashed them into pieces. As a result, he had a total of 150 godhood fragments. In addition, he also found a few hidden palaces and 2 hidden treasure vaults. The palaces with special functions and the treasure vaults with hidden treasures were all guarded by a large number of Golden Dragon Guards. Ji Tianqing acted alone and killed all the Golden Dragon Guards. A few palaces remained, but the 2 treasure vaults were emptied. After 3 days everything was done. The spoils of war that he had accumulated were already a terrifying amount of wealth. That evening, Ji Tianqing returned to the ruins of the Golden Dragon Mountain. 3,000 soldiers and all the overlords of the Monster League were waiting for him there. The thousands of captives had already been dealt with. Other than the 5 god kings and hundreds of divine lords who were willing to join the Monster League, the others left the Xuanji Grotto after swearing an oath. At that moment, everyone was looking at Ji Tianqing, waiting for his orders to carry out the next step of the plan. Ji Tianqing already had a plan, so he ordered the left and right protectors, the Chief of Internal Affairs and the others, take the soldiers of the League back to the Monster City immediately and recuperate. When I'm not in the Monster City, the Chief of Internal Affairs and the left and right protectors will be in charge. Upon hearing this order, it wasn't just the left and right protectors and elders who paled in fright. Many hall masters, branch masters, and divine lord experts were also surprised and confused. Only the chief of internal affairs, Fu Ergu, seemed to have known Ji Tianxing's plan, and he still looked calm. Chapter 3797. Many hall masters, branch masters, and monarch god experts were fearful of Ji Tianxing. Even if they were confused, no one dared to make a ruckus or question him. However, the left and right protectors and Hu Xinyue had won Ji Tianxing's trust and respect. Confused, the three of them asked Ji Tianxing in a low voice, "Young master, are you sure you want everyone to retreat? What if other forces occupy it?" "Young master, we have gone through so much and paid such a huge price to occupy Xuanji Grotto Heaven. The billions of people in Stellar Source Continent all think that Xuanji Grotto Heaven is the rightful ruler. If we don't occupy it, how can we justify it?" Ji Tianxing's expression did not change as he secretly explained to the three through voice transmission, "The soldiers have just fought a great battle. It is not suitable for them to stay here. It is better for them to return to Myriad Demon City to recuperate. Don't worry, I will stay here and try to seal Xuanji Grotto Heaven. I will not let it fall into the hands of others. Moreover, as long as the Gold Source Dragon Emperor is not eliminated, our alliance will not be able to truly control Stellar Source Continent. Even if everyone stays here, once the Gold Source Dragon Emperor returns, these soldiers will have died in vain." The left and right protectors and Hu Xinyue suddenly understood Ji Tianxing's meaning. The three of them knew very well that although the Myriad Demon Alliance had won this battle, they had suffered great losses. Not to mention that the number of God King experts had been halved, just the number of Monarch God experts had been reduced by 60%. These 3,000 soldiers were the last backbone of the Myriad Demon Alliance. If the Gold Source Dragon Emperor returned and killed all of them or even half of them, the Myriad Demon Alliance's foundation would be severely damaged. The consequences would be unimaginable. Therefore, as long as the Gold Source Dragon Emperor was alive, the Myriad Demon Alliance would not be at ease and would not be able to smoothly control the entire continent. Ji Tianxing reminded them again, "I will stay here for a while. You must keep this a secret. Also, I have already instructed the Chief of Internal Affairs to contact Alliance Master Luo Ho and ask him to come back as soon as possible. You don't have to worry. Just do as I say." Only then did the three of them truly feel relieved, and they hurriedly complied. Next, Fu Ergu, the left and right protectors Hu Xinyue, and the others led the 3,000 soldiers out of the Xuanji Grotto. Yunyao Jiku, Chaoqing Yu Yang, and the others were also severely injured. They all returned to the distorted spacetime to recuperate. In just an hour, the Enigma Grotto had become quiet and desolate. Ji Tianxing was left alone in the Enigma Paradise. Only then did he begin to deal with the aftermath. Who would have thought that such a ridiculous scene would actually appear? Even though there were various versions of legends and news that were widely spread across the Star Source continent. However, the commoners found it hard to accept this result. They were shocked for a long time before they calmed down. The information that was flying everywhere was enough to reconstruct the process of the 10,000 Demon Alliance's conquest of the Xuanji Paradise. Under the deliberate propaganda of the Myriad Demon League, the people of the entire continent knew that the acting leader of the Myriad Demon League was a peak divine king, a wise and mighty overlord. It was this acting alliance master who had used his wits to break through the Xuanji Grotto's defenses. He had defeated the peak godly kings invited by the Xuanji Grotto. Elder Golden Rock was easier to deal with. According to the news released by the 10,000 Demon Alliance, he was described as a wise man who followed the will of the heavens. However, the Battle Whale Divine King was unlucky. He had become Long Tian's background and a stepping stone for Long Tian's fame. As the news spread, the news that the Myriad Demon League was going to take over the Star Source continent also spread across the continent. Long Tian's unparalleled fame had also become a household name, reverberating like thunder in the ears. After 3 months, the impact of the news of the Myriad Demon League's victory on the commoners gradually weakened. However, one could foresee that it would take at least a few years for the shock to fade away. By then, the wariness and resistance of the territorial lords, the various top forces, and the various major races towards the Myriad Demon League would gradually disappear. Only then would the Myriad Demon League's takeover of the Star Source continent begin gradually. It was not something that could be completed overnight. Ji Tianqing's prediction of 50 years was more logical. Of course, this was based on the assumption that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was eliminated without any accidents. If the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was not eliminated, there would always be a huge threat. With the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's prestige and charisma on the continent, he could easily summon countless forces and experts to help him destroy the Myriad Demon League and take back his position as the overlord. It was because of this that Ji Tianqing had stayed in the Xuanji Grotto Heaven alone to wait for the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor's return. At the same time, the Myriad Demon League was also doing their best to investigate and find out more about the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. They had to find out where the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was, and when he would return to the Dragon Realm. Also, the Chief of Internal Affairs and the Left and Right Protectors had contacted Alliance leader Luo Ho twice after returning to the Myriad Demon City. They had conveyed the details of the battle and Ji Tianqing's instructions to Alliance leader Luo Ho. Alliance leader Luo Ho also knew the importance of this matter, and decided to postpone the matter in the Outer Realm, and return to the Dragon Realm to oversee the Myriad Demon League. However, the Star Source continent in the Outer Realm was too far away from the Dragon Realm. Even if he rushed back at full speed, he would not be able to return in a few months. Ji Tianqing had been cultivating in seclusion for 8 years in the distorted spacetime, and had only managed to refine the 150 quintessence fragments. Now that he had reached the late 7th Heaven God King realm, he had obtained another 80 divine Tao laws from the quintessence fragments. The number of divine Tao laws he grasped thus reached as many as 830 types. Without a doubt, he had gained a lot from his seclusion, and his combat strength had increased by 2 times. After finishing his cultivation, Ji Tianqing left the distorted spacetime and patrolled the Xuanji Grotto Heaven again. There was nothing unusual about the entrance of the Grotto Heaven and the interior of the Grotto Heaven. In the past few months, no one had infiltrated the Xuanji Grotto Heaven, and no one had dared to attack the entrance. At this moment, apart from Ji Tianqing, there were only endless cultivation resources and natural treasures in the Xuanji Wonderland. He was slightly disappointed and prayed silently in his heart that the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor would return soon and stop wasting time. This was the only way he could get rid of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor as soon as possible. After getting rid of this huge problem, the Myriad Demon League would be able to smoothly take over the Star Source continent. At that time he could leave with peace of mind and head to other continents to continue his search for Wu Hen. After patrolling the Grotto Heaven for 3 days, Ji Tianqing returned to the secret chamber in the Celestial Palace and entered the distorted spacetime to continue his seclusion. This time he would use up a huge amount of cultivation resources and divine pills to comprehend and deduce the heaven-punishing divine skill, in order to strengthen his foundation of the divine Tao and improve his mystique skills. If possible, he wanted to break through to the 8th Heaven God King realm. If he could break through to the 8th Heaven God King realm before the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor returned, he would have a greater chance of defeating the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. There were also some subordinate forces of the abstruse Grotto Heaven, and the old subordinates of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor. They were currently hiding in grief, but they were secretly colluding with each other. Naturally, they were unwilling to admit defeat. They were still thinking of ways to preserve their strength and wait for the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor to return so that they could make a comeback. Naturally, the 10,000 Demon Alliance was not idle either. The elites who had participated in the battle were indeed in seclusion to heal their wounds. However, the other 20,000 plus Alliance members who did not participate in the war had become extremely busy in the past few months. Other than the normal operations of the 10,000 Demon Alliance, they had to carry out a lot of missions. For example, investigating the whereabouts and news of the Golden Origin Dragon Emperor was a top priority. Another example was investigating the forces and experts who were extremely loyal to the Xuanji Grotto and couldn't bear to part with them, and secretly eliminating and assassinating them. Another example would be to drive a wedge between the factions that belonged to the Xuanji Utopia, but were only interested in survival and profit, and did not have much loyalty. In addition, He also had to persuade and pacify those fence-sitters, who were swaying left and right. The 10,000 Demon Alliance would use all kinds of methods to pacify them, regardless of whether they were first-rate forces or godly king experts. If they could be recruited into the 10,000 Demon Alliance, that would be the best. Even if they could not be recruited into the 10,000 Demon Alliance, they had to ensure that these fence-sitters would not side with the Xuanji Grotto and go against the 10,000 Demon Alliance. Of course, there was one more thing that the 10,000 Demon Alliance had been carrying out. That was to create rumors and deliberately spread all kinds of opinions. Ao Jining had always been in charge of this. He was very familiar with this kind of work. Before the 10,000 Demon Alliance attacked the Xuanji Grotto, Ao Jining had already done something similar. His goal was to manipulate public opinion and stir up the discussion of countless people on the continent, as well as achieve the effect of propaganda and bewitchment. To put it simply, he wanted to brainwash the billions of people so that they would gradually accept the 10,000 Demon Alliance as the ruler of the Star Source continent. Moreover, he wanted to smear and weaken the image of the Xuanji Grotto, lowering the prestige of the Xuanji Grotto in the hearts of the people. These were only some of the things that the 10,000 Demon Alliance had been doing in the past few months. There were many more complicated things that could not be explained in a few words. Fortunately, the 10,000 Demon Alliance had enough members and recruited the elites of all walks of life. They were good at all kinds of tasks. Ji Tianxing, the left and right protectors, the general manager of internal affairs, the elders, and the others only needed to discuss the countermeasures and issue orders. If they were asked to do these trivial things in person, there was no telling how many years it would take to finish them. All in all, the 10,000 Demon Alliance was not expanding, not waging war, and not in a hurry to take over the Star Source continent. However, the 10,000 Demon Alliance was not doing nothing. They were still actively preparing and paving the way for the takeover of the Star Source continent. Although Ji Tianxing was far away in the Xuanji Grotto, he had made a plan long ago. He asked the left and right protectors Hu Xinyue, Ao Jining, and the others to act according to the plan. Ao Jining was in charge of collecting information and carrying out assassinations. Hu Xinyue was in charge of appeasing and buying people's hearts. The left and right protectors were in charge of destroying the forces that were very loyal to the Xuanji Grotto. Everything was carried out in an orderly manner. If the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor appeared, Ji Tianxing would naturally deal with him and think of a way to eliminate him. If the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor did not appear, then as time passed, the hearts and minds of the people on the Star Source continent would change. Perhaps after 10 or 8 years, the people's hearts would no longer be with the Xuanji Grotto, but the 10,000 Demon Alliance. At that time, even if the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor returned to the Star Source continent, it would be impossible for him to gather his former subordinates and launch a counterattack against the 10,000 Demon Alliance. This was Ji Tianxing's plan. He was preparing for both sides so that the 10,000 Demon Alliance could smoothly rise to power. Unknowingly, an entire year had passed in the turmoil of the Star Source continent. In this entire year, the undercurrents of the Star Source continent were surging. The situation was very chaotic and complicated. However, under the secret control of the 10,000 Demon Alliance, no major chaos occurred. There were no wars or large-scale massacres. However, many forces and experts had quietly left the Star Source continent to seek shelter in other places. This was something that no one could avoid. There were also many forces and God King experts who could not resist the temptation of the 10,000 Demon Alliance and changed their allegiance to the 10,000 Demon Alliance. Other than that, a few forces that belonged to the Xuanji Grotto and were extremely loyal to the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor disappeared without anyone noticing. There was no doubt that it was the 10,000 Demon Alliance who did it. Everyone knew that once the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor returned, those forces would definitely respond to the Gold Origin Dragon Emperor's orders and launch a counterattack against the 10,000 Demon Alliance. Since that was the case, the 10,000 Demon Alliance naturally had to eliminate them as soon as possible to prevent future disasters. However, the 10,000 Demon Alliance purposely concealed the news to prevent this elimination of dissidents from causing panic among the people. After muttering to himself, he put away the jade slip and continued on his way. The Nebula Cave was as calm and peaceful as ever. Even though the 10,000 Demon Alliance's invasion of the Xuanji Grotto Heaven had shaken the Star Source continent for a year, the Star Source continent was still in turmoil. However, during this year the Nebula Paradise remained closed, as if it was isolated from the rest of the world. The Patriarch and elders of the Chongqi clan did not contact any forces in the outside world, nor did they get involved in the conflicts between the 10,000 Demon League and the Xuanji Paradise. It was as if no matter who was in charge of the Star Source continent, it had nothing to do with the Chongqi clan. The entrance to the Nebula Cave had always been closed, and no one was allowed to enter or leave. A year ago, when Patriarch Xueshang returned, he even ordered the construction of 2 more divine arrays to reinforce the seal of the entrance. More than 4,000 Chongqi clan members thought that Patriarch Xueshang had made up his mind to avoid worldly affairs and had decided to cultivate in seclusion. This puzzled many of the clan members, and they discussed and complained in private. Many young experts thought that the situation in the Star Source continent was chaotic, and it was a good opportunity to seize benefits and make a fortune. If Patriarch Xueshang could use some ingenious methods, he would be able to benefit the Chongqi clan greatly. Those young experts thought so, and they spread the word and persuaded him everywhere in the clan. After a few months of preparation and development, nearly half of the clan members agreed with this idea. They joined forces and asked the Patriarch to open the entrance to the Nebula Cave, so that the Chongqi clan could join the chaos and take advantage of the situation. However, the proposal of many clan members was rejected by Xueshang. Not only that, Xueshang was furious and severely punished several deacons and young experts who took the lead in stirring up trouble. After this incident, the clan members knew Xueshang's determination, and no longer mentioned taking advantage of the situation. They all stayed in the Nebula Cave and cultivated. Everyone thought that the Patriarch wanted to stay out of trouble and wait for changes. Only a few elders knew that Patriarch Xueshang was not waiting for the best price. He was waiting for the battle between the Myriad Demon Alliance and the Xuanji Cave to end before deciding his position. Instead, Patriarch Xueshang was very anxious. He was worried every day and could not eat or sleep well. Although he claimed to the clan members that he had been cultivating in seclusion in the secret chamber. But in fact, Xueshang had only rested for a month. After he recovered to his peak state, he had not cultivated for a day. He could not calm down and cultivate at all. He was always frowning and worried about the future of the Chongqi clan. The elders were puzzled and asked Xueshang many times what was going on that made him so worried. At first, Xueshang was hesitant, and he was not willing to disclose other things. After 2 or 3 months, Xueshang finally revealed the truth, probably because he could not bear the pressure and mental torture. It turned out that when the Myriad Demon Alliance attacked the Xuanji Cave, he had secretly joined the Xuanji Cave without telling his clan members and formed a grudge with the Myriad Demon Alliance. The elders finally understood that Xueshang was afraid of the Myriad Demon Alliance's revenge. They were all smart people. Some things did not need to be discussed. For example, after the Myriad Demon Alliance took over the Xuanji Cave, it seemed that they did not do anything. They did not expand their forces and eliminate their opponents. However, the Myriad Demon Alliance did it to stabilize the people's hearts. It did not mean that after the situation stabilized, they would not eliminate their enemies. With what Xueshang had done to the Myriad Demon Alliance, the Myriad Demon Alliance would definitely settle the score. Therefore, Xueshang and the elders stayed in the secret chamber to discuss countermeasures. Someone suggested that Xueshang take the Chongqi clan to abandon the Nebula Cave and escape from the Star Source continent. With the strength of the Chongqi clan, even if they went to other continents, they would be able to make a name for themselves. However, this suggestion was rejected by Xueshang and the elders. The Chongqi clan had occupied the Nebula Cave for more than 20,000 years. They had long regarded this place as their home, and all their forces and properties were in the surrounding areas. Leaving their home to other continents would be difficult and dangerous, and they would have to start from scratch. Not only did Xueshang and the elders not want to give up the Nebula Cave, but the thousands of clan members would also not agree. Soon, another elder suggested that they submit to the Myriad Demon Alliance and apologize for what happened before, hoping to be forgiven by the Myriad Demon Alliance. Of course, this was only a temporary measure to resolve the grudge between the Chongqi clan and the Myriad Demon Alliance. They would not really join the Myriad Demon Alliance. Xueshang thought about it for a few days and actually agreed to this suggestion. He personally wrote a letter to the Myriad Demon Alliance, sending gifts, apologizing, and asking for peace. The exit was a spatial door that was 1,000 feet tall. It was flashing with a dazzling white light and fluctuating constantly. The divine light shield that had a radius of 10,000 feet was also trembling violently and shaking. Obviously, someone was attacking the sealing divine array outside the nebula paradise with all his might. The hundreds of guards guarding the exit stared at the blazing white light gate without blinking. They looked as if they were facing a great enemy. Everyone looked serious. They held their divine weapons in their hands and accumulated divine power in their bodies. They were ready to fight at any time. Although they had not seen who was bold enough to attack the Nebula Paradise's sealing divine array. However, the guards knew that the enemy was definitely one of the best among the supreme gods. After all, the sealing divine array was a superior king-level one. It had been strengthened by clan leader Xueshang himself. This person could shake the sealing divine array. He was definitely not weak. Most importantly, everyone knew that the Dao Xingyun Paradise was the Chongqi tribe's nest. Since the enemy dared to attack the Nebula Paradise, it meant that they did not take the Chongqi tribe seriously. Thinking of this, the hundreds of guards became even more nervous. Bam! 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 As the sealing divine array trembled violently, a series of muffled sounds could be heard. Soon, the guards saw with their own eyes that the divine light shield that had a radius of 10,000 feet started to shatter and collapse. The spatial door that was 1,000 feet tall was also flashing with white light. It was as if something was about to come out. Retreat! Everyone retreat! Sensing that the sealing divine array was about to be broken, the guard commander hurriedly ordered the guards to retreat. Just as expected. Once the guards retreated to about 10 miles away, the divine light shield exploded with a loud boom. At the same time, the spatial door flashed with white light. A figure wrapped in golden light forcefully charged through the door. Swoosh! In the next moment, the white-robed figure passed through the spatial door and entered the Nebula Paradise. The gazes of over 100 guards were focused on the white-robed young man. Their nerves were tense. The other 3 elders were also shocked, revealing a look of dread and fear. What? It's him? Long Tian? The acting leader of the Myriad Demon Alliance? What was he doing here? Revenge? If he's here for revenge, why did he come alone? The elders discussed in secret, their hearts full of doubts and worries. The 2 elders who were tasked to go to the 10,000 Demon Alliance looked at Xueshang at the same time. Their eyes and their expressions were clearly asking bloody death, if they were still going to the Myriad Demon Alliance to ask for peace. Xueshang waved his hand and ordered the 4 elders, all of you can leave. Leave this place to this king. Patriarch, you can't do that. The 4 elders were shocked and quickly tried to dissuade him. Long Tian clearly came with ill intentions. How can we abandon you? Patriarch, don't worry. He's only one person. No matter how strong he is, he can't defeat so many of us. The 4 elders were united against a common enemy, and were determined not to retreat. On the other hand, Ji Tianqing, who held the Heaven Burier sword, didn't say a word from beginning to end. He just quietly watched this scene with a mocking smile hanging on the corners of his mouth. Probably in his opinion, Xueshang and the elders were acting again. In the end, Xueshang took out the dignity of the patriarch. The 4 elders could only obey and leave uneasily. With the exit as the center within a radius of 50,000 miles, only Ji Tianqing and Xueshang were left. It was not until this time that Ji Tianqing spoke. He looked at Xueshang and said with a faint smile, "It seems that you know very well why I'm here." There was no one else nearby, so Xueshang no longer pretended. He smiled bitterly and nodded, "Of course. You're going to settle accounts later. It's already within my expectations. In fact, I've been worried about this every day for the past year. I thought you would come long ago, but I didn't expect you to wait a year." Ji Tianqing said calmly, "After that battle ended, I wasn't injured. Shueshang was stunned for a moment before he suddenly understood. He smiled bitterly and said, "So that's how it is. It seems that you gave me a chance and gave me a year to think about it. However, I gave up the chance myself." Ji Tianqing raised his eyebrows and asked, "You're not willing to give up Nebula Paradise, and you don't want to take your clansmen away from home?" Shueshang nodded and admitted, "Yes. After all, the Chongqi clan has lived here for more than 20,000 years, and has long regarded this place as their home. How can we give it up so easily? Moreover, the Chongqi clan is notorious. If we leave Starsource Continent, where can we find shelter?" Ji Tianqing nodded slightly and asked again, "So, you who have always been afraid of death, are not afraid of death this time?" Shueshang shook his head and said seriously, "Correction, I cherish my life, but I'm not afraid of death." He punched out a dragon-elephant divine fist with his left hand, while his right hand waved his sword, creating a sky full of golden light. Sun-shattering sword. Dozens of dazzling golden sword lights collided with Shueshang's saber lights, causing a series of muffled sounds to erupt. At the same time, the mountain-like dragon-elephant fist shadow also hit Shueshang. With a loud bang, Shueshang was sent flying by the punch and smashed into the ground 100 miles away. With the protection of the indestructible golden body, he didn't suffer any substantial damage. However, he was severely shaken, and his divine power was a little chaotic. His aura was also much weaker. He had just smashed into the ground, creating a huge crater. Before he could fly back to the sky to counterattack, Ji Tianqing had already taken out the primordial chaos bell and suppressed him from the sky. Swoosh! The 1-foot-tall divine bell instantly expanded by 1 billion times, turning into a sky screen with a radius of 30,000 miles, sealing off the area. The entire space within 30,000 miles was sealed, and it became pitch black. An immense and irresistible force instantly poured down and firmly locked onto Shueshang. Shueshang's body suddenly stiffened, and it became very difficult for him to move. His combat power also decreased greatly. Seeing that his surroundings had fallen into darkness, he struggled to fly into the sky and looked around. "The primordial chaos bell? You have already refined it?" Shueshang was no stranger to the primordial chaos bell. He immediately recognized it, and his face was filled with shock and anxiety. He knew very well that the primordial chaos bell of the Taotai clan was no weaker than Patriarch Chongqi's indestructible golden body. In fact, in a battle, the primordial chaos bell could play a far greater role than the indestructible golden body. Being in the primordial chaos bell, even the power of the indestructible golden body would be weakened. As for his combat power, it would be greatly weakened. As a result, his advantage of having a supreme-grade king-level divine artifact was completely gone. Under the suppression of the primordial chaos bell, he was not confident that he could remain undefeated and undying. "Since you know the power of the primordial chaos bell, then you will be killed," Ji Tianqing shouted coldly. Holding the sword of burial of heaven with both hands, he charged toward Shueshang like a thunderbolt, tearing the night sky apart. Shueshang was shocked and quickly blocked with the divine saber in front of him. Bam! With a muffled sound, Shueshang was once again sent flying by the sword. He retreated 800 miles and fell into the darkness. The indestructible golden body that had merged with his divine body flashed with golden divine light, and emitted the sound of metal rubbing against each other. Seeing that Ji Tianqing did not stop at all in the night sky, he stabbed with the sword again. Shueshang did not have time to check if the indestructible golden body was damaged. He forcibly mobilized his chaotic divine power and quickly dodged. Clang! The sword light that was as bright as stars brushed past him, but at the critical moment, it changed direction and hit his chest hard. With a loud sound of metal clashing, the violent impact sent Shueshang tumbling backward. The sword of burial of heaven had also cut a hole in the armor he was wearing. Damn it! Fighting in the primordial chaos bell, my strength is weakened, but he is not affected at all. He is too fast. I can't dodge at all. This thought flashed through Shueshang's mind, and his heart was both painful and heavy. Although he was protected by the indestructible golden body, Ji Tianqing's movement technique was too fast, and his sword technique was even faster. Every time Ji Tianqing attacked, he could not dodge and could only rely on the indestructible golden body to resist. Once, twice, 3 or 5 times was fine, but if it was more than 100 times, he knew that he would not be able to withstand it. Even if the indestructible golden body could be preserved, he would be covered in wounds and his divine power would be extremely weak. No, I can't just dodge. I have to fight back. Even if I die in battle, even if I am killed, I can't die in such a cowardly way. Xueshang roared in his heart and made up his mind. Even if he was killed by Ji Tianqing, he would bite off a few pieces of his flesh. When Ji Tianqing swung his sword again, he looked at the sword light that filled the sky and stopped dodging. Instead, he waved his divine saber to meet it. Silent blood soul breaking slash. Xueshang roared and waved his divine saber with both hands. He used all his strength to slash out 49 blood-colored saber lights. Not only did he explode with his strongest divine power, but he also used more than 150 types of divine power. This was almost his strongest killing move. However, the outcome made him extremely sad and helpless. Bang! Bang bang bang! In the earth-shattering sound, the blood-colored saber lights were all defeated. More than a dozen sword lights hit him, and he was sent flying again, blood spurting out of his 7 orifices. Chapter 3804. The exit of the Nebula Grotto was covered by the primordial chaos bell. Looking from afar, one could only see a gigantic, pitch-black divine bell pressing down on the ground. The 4 elders were ordered to leave by Xueshang, but they did not go far, nor did they return to the Chongqi clan's lair. They believed that Long Tian came with ill intentions and would definitely harm clan leader Xueshang. Therefore, the 4 of them retreated 50,000 miles and stopped in the sky. They stood high in the sky and used their divine consciousness to observe the situation at the grotto's exit. Unfortunately, they could only see the gigantic divine bell, and could not see what was going on inside. Worried, the 4 elders sent a message to their clansmen. Not long after, a large group of deacons and guards rushed over in a hurry. There were also 300 elites of the Hall of Blood Slaughter. They were armed with swords and full of killing intent. These elites of the Hall of Blood Slaughter did not listen to the 4 elders' message. They followed Xueshang's order and went to check the situation at the exit. However, when they encountered the 4 elders, they were stopped by them. Don't go. The clan leader has ordered that no one can interfere. The 2nd elder stopped the elites of the Hall of Blood Slaughter, and said to the leader of the Hall of Blood Slaughter. The leader of the Hall of Blood Slaughter frowned and used his divine consciousness to look at the divine bell at the exit. He asked worriedly, 2nd elder, what's going on? Who is so daring as to attack our nebula paradise? The 3rd elder replied in a heavy tone. It's Long Tian of the Myriad Demon Alliance. What? Long Tian? The leader of the Hall of Blood Slaughter was shocked and said anxiously, damn bastard. He actually led the Myriad Demon Alliance to attack our clan? What are we waiting for? Go help the clan leader. As he spoke, the leader of the Hall of Blood Slaughter was about to lead 300 elites to the exit to help. The other 2 elders quickly stopped him and explained, don't be so agitated. It's only Long Tian who came. He didn't bring any helpers. Also, the clan leader has strictly ordered that we are not allowed to interfere in this matter. He will deal with it alone. The 2nd elder nodded in agreement and said earnestly, the clan leader said that this is between him and Long Tian. No matter what happens, our clansmen are not allowed to interfere. Otherwise, this matter will become a grudge between our clan and the Myriad Demon Alliance and bring disaster to our clan. At this point, not only were the 300 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall stunned, but the dozen deacons and more than 100 experts were also stunned. How can this be? What grudge is there between the clan leader and Long Tian? The Myriad Demon Alliance dared to attack the Xuanji Grotto and even won. It's obvious how powerful they are. Chapter 3805. Ji Tianqing stood above the ruins, holding the burial of heaven sword in his hand, safe and sound. Shang, on the other hand, had disappeared. Apparently, he had turned into ashes and completely died. This result was destined from the beginning. That year, before Ji Tianqing became a high-level god king, he could fight Shang to a draw, or even slightly better. Now that he was an 8th-stage god king, he could even defeat a peak god king, so killing Shang was naturally not a problem. When he killed Shang, he did not even use his 2 trump cards, Absolute Shadows and Sword of Annihilation. The reason why it took 15 minutes was that the indestructible golden body was more difficult to deal with. If it were not for the indestructible golden body's defense being too strong, Ji Tianqing could kill Shang within 10 moves. What was worth mentioning was that Ji Tianqing's method of killing Shang mainly relied on soul attacks. It was very difficult for ordinary spells to break the defense of the indestructible golden body. Even if Ji Tianqing had already killed Shang, the indestructible golden body was actually only damaged and not destroyed. Before putting away the primordial chaos spell, Ji Tianqing had already cleaned up the battlefield. Shang turned into ashes and merged into the ruins. His godhead fragments, interspatial ring, and indestructible golden body were all put into Ji Tianqing's interspatial ring. Ji Tianqing pondered that he would have to find time to repair the damaged indestructible golden body in the future. It could also be used as a trump card. After all, it was a king-level divine artifact. 4 elders, 300 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall, and hundreds of experts of the Chongqi clan swept their eyes across the ruins of the battlefield and finally gathered on Ji Tianqing. There was no need for Ji Tianqing to say anything. Everyone already knew the result. Immediately, anger and sadness spread among the crowd, filling everyone's heart. Many people's eyes turned red with blood, and flames of anger burst out of their bodies, exuding blazing killing intent. Some people clenched their weapons, and the divine power in their bodies crazily accumulated, ready to burst out a fatal blow at any time. The 300 elites of the Blood Slaughter Hall moved their feet and silently formed an encirclement around Ji Tianqing. Although there was no sound in the field, the atmosphere was particularly solemn and somber. Raging anger and killing intent were brewing, and it was about to erupt. However, Ji Tianqing, who was in the eye of the storm, was not worried at all. In fact, he didn't even care about these hundreds of people. His expression was calm as he said, "There's no need to guess. Your clan leader, Shang, has already been killed by this king. Just now, he had ordered the elders to strictly forbid anyone from interfering in this matter. Furthermore, he had left a will that forbade the people of the Chongqi tribe from avenging him or becoming enemies with the 10,000 Demon Alliance. This is Shang's order. Now that he is dead, you can choose to obey or disobey." Everyone was already filled with grief and indignation, and his words had undoubtedly added fuel to the fire, causing everyone to be even more furious. However, he didn't care at all and continued, "I believe you also understand why Shang did this. He wanted to sacrifice himself to protect the people of the Chongqi tribe. Before he died, he even begged this king to spare the Chongqi tribe. This was because he knew that it would be easy for this king and the 10,000 Demon Alliance to exterminate the Chongqi tribe. However, this king did not agree to his request. Whether or not to destroy the Chongqi tribe is up to this king. Of course, it also depends on your performance." Ji Tianqing's tone was very relaxed and indifferent. There wasn't a trace of guilt, anger, or overbearingness in his voice. It was as if he was describing an unrelated matter. After he finished speaking, he stood with his sword and didn't say anything else. Obviously, he had given the Chongqi tribe the choice. It was up to them whether they would live or be destroyed. The leader of the Blood Slaughter Hall was the most loyal to Shang. When he heard Ji Tianqing's words, he could no longer suppress his anger and immediately roared, "Long Tian, the Chongqi tribe will never forgive you. Others may be afraid of you and the 10,000 Demon Alliance, but I'm not afraid of you." With the leader of the Blood Slaughter Hall taking the lead, a few deacons and many other tribe members immediately responded. Many people were filled with righteous indignation and cursed furiously. "Long Tian, you bastard, not only did you kill our leader, but you're also showing off here. Do you really think the Chongqi tribe is a coward? Even if we die here, we won't be humiliated by you. Brothers, let's attack together and fight it out with him." As the roars and curses rang out, Everyone's emotions and hot blood were ignited. Nearly 400 Kenshin soldiers waved their swords and roared as they charged toward Ji Tianqing, releasing an overwhelming number of swords and sabers. Immediately, the flames of war rose from the ruins, and killing intent soared to the sky. The four elders' faces changed immediately, and they anxiously shouted, wanting to stop the crowd. Of course, they knew that the rash actions of these 400 tribe members would lead to a disaster. However, it was too late for them to stop them. Those 400 people were on the verge of madness and did not listen to any advice. Ji Tianqing was about to be drowned by the sword and saber light that blotted out the sky. At this moment, the center of the battlefield, under the swords and sabers, suddenly released a dazzling golden sword light that soared into the sky like a blazing sun. Bang! 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 Hundreds of divine sword lights, carrying the mighty power of laws, bloomed in the sky like a blazing sun, illuminating the earth. The attacks of the 400 Chongqi tribe members were like ice and snow, quickly melting and dissipating under the blazing sun. With an earth-shattering explosion, dozens of blood-slaughter hololites disappeared on the spot, turning into a rain of blood and dust that fell to the ground. Hundreds of Chongqi tribe members were also sent flying by the unparalleled power and crashed into the ruins. In the dazzling golden light, Ji Tianqing's figure reappeared, standing proudly high in the sky. His left palm struck out with a mountain-sized dragon-elephant image, and his right hand swung the sword, creating streaks of shooting stars that shot toward the fleeing Chongqi tribe members. Bang! 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 Boom! Boom! The battlefield was in chaos. The 300 or so Chongqi tribe members who were lucky enough to survive were thrown off their feet, their flesh and blood flying everywhere. Waves of screams and howls of despair rang out continuously, reverberating through the sky. In just a few seconds, nearly half of the Chongqi tribe members were killed. The four elders witnessed all this with their own eyes, and they were so frightened that their faces turned pale, and they trembled all over. Of course, it was not just shock but more anger and fear. They knew that Long Tian was very powerful, comparable to a peak god king. However, they had never seen it with their own eyes, and they were not qualified to exchange blows with Long Tian. Now that they saw it with their own eyes, they knew that Long Tian was actually so powerful. Let alone killing 400 Chongqi tribe members, even destroying the entire Nebula Grotto heaven with his own strength would not be a problem. At this moment, the four elders suddenly understood Xueshang's good intentions. They originally had a slight impulse to attack Long Tian together. But now that impulsive flame had been forcibly extinguished by them, they shouted, "Stop!" While begging Ji Tianqing for mercy, they tried to save the fleeing Chongqi clansmen. Their eyes were filled with hatred and hostility. Many of the bolder Chongqi clan members questioned the four elders loudly about what had happened. The four elders were hesitant. Their expressions were ugly. They secretly discussed how to explain and appease the angry Chongqi clan members. However, before they could come to a conclusion, Ji Tianqing ordered, "Go and call everyone over. Gather them at the square in front of the divine palace. If anyone dares to not come, kill them." The four elders' hearts shook. Their expressions were even uglier. However, they did not dare to refute and could only pass down the order. Under the orders of the elders and a dozen deacons, the 3,000 Chongqi clan members unwillingly gathered at the square. The square in front of the divine palace was very big. It was at least 1,000 feet wide. There was no problem in accommodating the 4,000 Chongqi clan members. The patience of the Chongqi clan members was gradually running out. Their anger and killing intent were becoming more and more undisguised. They could explode at any moment. Many people were roaring and questioning loudly. However, the elders could not explain. Ji Tianqing was also silent and expressionless. Half an hour later, more than 1,000 Chongqi race clansmen gathered from all directions. The second elder reported to Ji Tianqing, "There are 4,562 people in total. Almost all of our clansmen have gathered." Ji Tianqing turned to look at him and sneered, "Almost all? How many are missing?" The second elder was under great pressure. Cold sweat appeared on his forehead as he replied, "There are still 15 people who are missing, Haha, missing? Ji Tianqing sneered and said. Nebula Paradise has always been sealed. They cannot leave. Since we have not found them, then they must be hiding. However, no matter. This king will deal with them later. Chapter 3807. Of course, the second elder knew what Ji Tianqing meant by deal with. He was even clearer that the 6 young experts who fled without permission only had the strength of Divine Lord Realm. To Long Tian, killing those 6 young experts was no different from killing a few ants. However, at this moment the second elder was not in the mood to worry about those 6 people. He was more worried about what Long Tian wanted to do by gathering all the Chongqi tribe members in the plaza. Before he could think further, he saw Long Tian emit a divine aura that could suppress the heavens and the earth. It enveloped the plaza. Swoosh! All of a sudden, the 4,000 or so Chongqi clansmen all turned pale and lowered their heads in fear. All the roars, questions, and discussions came to an abrupt end. The plaza that had been noisy a moment ago was now so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Although many Chongqi tribe members felt humiliated and angry, they could not raise their heads. Under the terrifying divine aura, they could not even raise their heads, let alone make a sound. Then they heard Ji Tianqing say coldly, "Your tribe leader Xueshang has been killed by me." Before he died, he left behind his last words. It was the same words as before. He had said it once at the entrance of the grotto heaven. Now, he said it again in front of all the Chongqi tribe members. The outcome was the same. The 4,000 Chongqi tribe members felt like they had been struck by lightning. When they heard that Xueshang had been killed, they were filled with grief and anger. Their eyes were filled with hatred and resentment. If looks could kill, Ji Tianqing would have been cut into pieces. However, he was not afraid at all. He ignored the murderous looks and said indifferently, "To avoid future trouble, all of you have to swear an oath now. Of course, the choice is in your hands whether or not you want to swear an oath. You can resist." As soon as he finished speaking, more than a dozen divine lords struggled to break free from the pressure and shouted angrily, "Long Tian, we are irreconcilable with you. You damn bastard, you killed our tribe leader. We want you to pay with your life. Everyone, don't be afraid. If we all work together, we can definitely kill him." The dozen or so experts were agitated and roared furiously. Ji Tianqing glanced at them indifferently, then raised his right hand and shot out a dozen golden beams. In the next moment, a series of muffled bangs could be heard. The dozen or so divine lord experts exploded in front of everyone, turning into a bloody mist. The sudden deaths and the thick stench of blood greatly irritated the 4,000 Chongqi clansmen. Many people became even more furious. They roared like crazy and rushed to Ji Tianqing with resentful eyes. There were even many experts who roared and revealed their true forms, using their Chongqi true forms to unleash their strongest power to attack Ji Tianqing. Ji Tianqing's expression didn't change. He didn't even lift his eyelids. He raised his hand again and shot out dozens of sword lights. Swish! Swish! A resplendent golden sword light tore through the air. And in the next instant, the dozens of Chongqi experts exploded into a bloody mist. A full 46 Divine Lord Realm experts all burst forth with their strongest power under their rage. In the end, he was still unable to block a single attack from Ji Tianqing, and was easily killed by him. Moreover, not even his corpse was left behind. Not even a speck of his remains remained. Such a shocking scene filled the 4,000 Chongqi clansmen with fear. They were scared out of their wits. In an instant, the cursing and roaring on the square weakened a lot. Countless people's ferocious expressions and resentful eyes turned into deep fear. As Chongqi clansmen, they were naturally bloodthirsty. However, this didn't mean that they were fearless and could ignore death. The bloody reality told them that Long Tian was unimaginably powerful, and that they couldn't disobey him. Long Tian could kill them as easily as squashing an ant. Therefore, many Chongqi clansmen suppressed their anger and stayed where they were, not daring to move. However, there were still more than 100 fearless ironheads who continued to roar and charge at Ji Tianqing. However, a few elders and a dozen deacons rushed over anxiously and chased them back to the square. Those who could be comforted were comforted. Those who couldn't be comforted could only be knocked out on the spot to calm them down. Of course, there were still more than 30 Chongqi clansmen who charged out of the square fearlessly and charged at Ji Tianqing. However, their outcome was the same as the Chongqi clansmen before. They were all killed by Ji Tianqing with a raise of his hand and turned into a bloody mist. After a brutal beating, the remaining 4,000 people finally became obedient. In the face of absolute strength, they could only accept their fate and suppress all their anger and humiliation. The elders and deacons took the opportunity to comfort the crowd and explain what happened. In short, the square was noisy for a while before it became quiet again. Ji Tianqing took out a few jade slips and handed them to the 4 elders. He instructed, "This is the model of the oath. Copy it and send it out. Everyone has to recite it." The 4 elders were a little confused and looked at each other. They were just swearing not to go against the 10,000 Demon Alliance. Did they need a model? However, they didn't dare to disobey Ji Tianqing. They quickly took the jade slips and copied the contents of the jade slips. When they saw the contents of the model oath, they were dumbfounded again. They finally understood why this oath needed a model. There were more than 20 rules and more than 500 words. Normal people couldn't remember them. The 4 elders were very efficient. They quickly made 18 copies of the model oath and handed them to the 18 deacons. Then, they and the 18 deacons stood in the sky and commanded the Chongqi clansmen on the square to recite the oath one by one. The first batch of 22 Chongqi clansmen who were forced to swear the oath had wonderful expressions when they received the jade slips and read the contents of the oath. The smart ones knew that this was a heavenly oath. It was very strict and detailed. There was nothing left out. If they really swore such an oath, they would never be able to do anything to the 10,000 Demon Alliance. They couldn't go against the 10,000 Demon Alliance openly, secretly, or even in a roundabout way. If they had any thoughts of going against the 10,000 Demon Alliance, they might even be punished by the heavens. This was too terrifying. However, Ji Tianqing was staring at them from the sky. No one dared to refuse the oath. Everyone knew the consequences of going against Ji Tianqing. Therefore, the 22 Chongqi clansmen fell silent for a while. Then they began to recite the oath with a tragic and humiliating mood. Soon, a scene that shocked the thousands of Chongqi clansmen appeared. After the 22 people recited the oath, their bodies lit up with 5-colored divine light and traces of Taoist rhymes. An invisible power of the heavens enveloped the square. Everyone was terrified and in awe. Chapter 3808. The Tao runes and scenes of the 22 Chongqi tribe members swearing could not be compared to the divine King War Whale. Even the fluctuations of the power of the heavenly Tao and the scene of the lingering Tao aura seemed much weaker and insignificant. Ji Tianqing guessed that the difference was related to their cultivation level. The heavenly Tao would definitely pay more attention to a peak expert like the divine King War Whale. The heavenly Tao was already giving them a lot of face by responding to the Chongqi tribe members. If not for the fact that Ji Tianqing had given them a strict and formal oath, the Chongqi tribe members would not have been able to elicit a response from the heavenly Tao. The scene of the first batch of Chongqi tribe members swearing shocked more than 4,000 Chongqi tribe members and made them even more respectful. Although the square was still quiet and dull, it was obvious that everyone's resistance was much lower. Next, the first batch of Chongqi tribe members returned to their original positions. The second batch of Chongqi tribe members flew into the sky and recited the heavenly Tao oath in the jade slip. Ji Tianqing stood in the sky above the square and looked at everything indifferently. As time passed, batch after batch of Chongqi tribe members swore the heavenly Tao oath, triggering the 5-colored divine light in Tao runes. The heavenly Tao power in the sky above the square became denser and denser, making the Chongqi tribe members more and more respectful. The heavenly Tao today was a little busy. Overall, the collective swearing of the Chongqi tribe members went smoothly. Most of the Chongqi tribe members were intimidated by Ji Tianqing's power and could only swear obediently. However, there were still a few Chongqi tribe members who stubbornly refused to swear. These people were either too young and hot-blooded or too old. The respected elders in the tribe could not bring themselves to do it. In any case, Ji Tianqing did not waste any time and killed them instantly. After this small interlude, the rest of the matter went even more smoothly. Even so, it took 6 hours for all 4,000 Cheongqi clan members to finish swearing their oaths. Ji Tianqing monitored the entire process to ensure that no one was left out. Only after the 18 deacons and 4 elders had sworn their oaths did he turn around and leave. The remaining matters were naturally left to the elders and wardens. The resentment of thousands of clansmen was too great. They still needed to explain and comfort them. Ji Tianqing did not leave the nebula cave. Instead, he searched the cave once more. The 6 Cheongqi clan experts who had fled in advance and were hiding in various places were also found and killed by him. After dealing with these matters, he left the nebula paradise. After the nebula grotto suffered such a calamity, it would definitely be turbulent for a few days before it could calm down. At the same time, the Cheongqi clan lost their clan leader and a large number of elites. They would not be able to recover for the next 1,000 years. Bound by the oath, even if the Qiankis grew stronger in another tens of thousands of years, they would not be able to harm the 10,000 demon alliance. Of course, the Cheongqi clan was an ancient sinful clan. It was hard to say if they could survive for tens of thousands of years. No matter how powerful the myriad demon alliance was right now, it was still unknown whether it would still exist after tens of thousands of years. At the very least, the Qiankis would not be able to cause any trouble or threaten the 10,000 demon alliance in the next few thousand years. Meanwhile, in the southernmost part of the Star Source continent, on an island near the boundless sky sea, swoosh, 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 more than a dozen dazzling divine lights descended from the sky and landed on the strange rocky island. After the divine lights faded, 18 different-looking divine beings of different races appeared. These 18 powerful divine spirits with unfathomable auras were all divine king realm experts. However, they were not of the demon race. They were of a different race that did not exist in the dragon realm. There was a divine being with blue skin and antennae on top of his head. There was a divine being with a lithe body and a beautiful and noble appearance like that of a fairy. There was also a divine being with the upper body of a human and the lower body of a white Pegasus. There was also a strange divine being with a body that was like a ball of black smoke that was constantly changing. All in all, the 18 God King experts could be divided into 7 different races. The 18 God Kings gathered together, looked at each other, and exchanged a few words through voice transmission. Then they all flew toward the pile of rocks in the middle of the island. On the surface, this island looked barren. Even the sea beasts and flying birds were not willing to stay here. However, in reality, they had already built a stone cave in the center of the island a month ago and made it look like a palace. And the hidden entrance to the palace was in the pile of rocks. The 18 God Kings came to the pile of rocks. Someone used a divine technique and opened the array at the entrance. Soon a white spatial door appeared. The 18 God Kings entered in a single file. After a while, they appeared in the center of the island, 3,000 meters underground. The group passed through a man-made tunnel and entered a brightly lit stone cave. Although the stone cave was dug at the last minute, it was decorated magnificently and shone with divine light. The widest stone cave in the center was the main hall where they discussed matters with their master. On the walls on both sides of the main hall, there were more than 20 stone caves. Those were the secret rooms that the group needed to cultivate. When the 18 foreign God Kings stepped into the hall, there were already 7 even more powerful God Kings waiting for them in the discussion hall. Among them, the strongest was a middle-aged man wearing a golden robe and a luxurious divine crown. That person was tall and sturdy. He had a dignified appearance and a golden horn on his forehead. His entire body emitted the aura of a peak expert. Obviously, he was a peak God King from the dragon race. If there were any experts from the Star Source continent here, they would definitely recognize that this person was the ruler of the continent, the Gold Source Dragon Emperor. The Gold Source Dragon Emperor sat on a throne inlaid with divine gold and jade. The other 6 God Kings stood below the steps in front of the throne. These 6 God Kings were even stronger. All of them were high-level God Kings. There was even an old man wearing a purple robe with 2 antlers on his head. He was at the 9th level of the God King realm. These God Kings came from different races and were all arrogant and unruly. However, they bowed down to the Gold Source Dragon Emperor and were extremely respectful. Greetings, Dragon Emperor. The 18 God Kings stepped into the main hall. They lined up in a row and bowed in unison. The Gold Source Dragon Emperor was expressionless. However, deep in his eyes there was worry and anger. He nodded slightly and said, "Everyone, please dispense with the formalities. Let's talk about the results of this trip." Thus, 6 of the 18 foreign race God Kings walked out and reported the news one by one. Reporting to the Dragon Emperor. We went to the Anlin region to investigate for a few days and found that the Black Heaven sect had been destroyed. Everyone was killed. Reporting to the Dragon Emperor. Our investigation in the 7 Stops region also yielded the same results. The Qi clan was destroyed half a year ago. Those who were lucky enough to survive have fled the Star Source continent. Reporting to the Dragon Emperor. After the 6 God Kings finished reporting, the Gold Source Dragon Emperor frowned deeply. His expression became even more gloomy. These 6 factions were all my trusted subordinates back in the day. They were the ones I nurtured with great care. Previously, I didn't understand why they didn't respond when I sent them a message after returning. I didn't expect my guess to be right. That damned Myriad Demon Alliance. We should have destroyed them long ago. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Sword of Destiny YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.